Boom. And we are live. Tsmmaa, thank you so much for doing this with me.
Hi, Mr. Blind. How are you?
Oh, hello. I'm doing great. This is episode 8 of our Playerdiff podcast. Not joined by a co-host today. I'm soloing it with my soon-to-be good friend, Tsmmaa. I'm saying it right? Like Tsmmaa? Like,
Playerdiff. Yeah, I'm small. It's good enough.
it's good enough. Okay, tell me the origins of the name, because I want to know. I'm actually, really fascinated by people's usernames.
At first, okay, how I got it. We'll just start with that. So I tried to spell tsunami, didn't know how to spell the second half, slammed down the TS part, and then the MMA just came naturally. But then ever since, like when I type in Twitch chats, I get like so many different varieties from, Tsmmaa, Tsmmaa, like
That's I'm sorry. Go ahead.
yeah.
That's too good.
No,
That's too good.
I I mean I found it like really funny and I'm like, okay, maybe one day if I get signed by TSM, fuck it, I'm TSM mother or some shit like that.
Yeah,
And
it's just
then
TSMR. That's great.
and then yeah. But till then
Okay.
it's just small, yeah.
Samoa. So it's like tsunami, just like with missing a bunch of letters.
Yeah. Just missing a bunch of letters. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. And how long ago did you make this name? I'm just curious. Like, is this something
Um
you've had for a while? Because I know there are some people who just like set one username when they're 13 and then just stick with it for the rest of their life. And then there's like, and then there's me where it's like I will change it for like every year, like a new chapter in my life. Like if I go to a completely different game, I'll be like, yeah, let's just be someone else for once.
yeah. Honestly, when I was 13, I searched up the two coolest words in the dictionary and put XX in front and behind. So I was XX Oblivion Sworn XX.
Yeah, you were an XX kid.
Yeah. And I was like, I wasn't ready to give up the title, you know? Maybe someone might have taken it away from me, but recently when I joined TFT is like when I decided to make the switch, you know?
Gotcha,
So
gotcha,
yeah.
gotcha. Yeah, and when did you start TFT?
Okay. I started set 2, but I played casually and I was hard stuck platinum with like 600 games. But it
That's a
was
lot of
mostly
games.
because I just found the game fun and honestly like I didn't know shit, so I was just hard stuck. But I changed it probably like set 4 when I saw the potential in myself. And then yeah, and I thought like making a brand, putting a real name instead of X Oblivion Soren X is kind of probably a good step forward. But yeah.
Yeah, that's probably yeah, that's a step forward. Yeah, I actually come from the world of marketing and branding, right? So that's my professional background, as long as with being a chef, because I went to
Hmm.
culinary school and all that jazz. So it's interesting for me to like have real life professional experience in terms of branding and marketing and observing how people do those things in the online world, especially like within the gaming space, because I think there's a lot of people who don't really understand how to brand or how to market. But just like watching how certain people like brand themselves in terms of like usernames and making sure their handles are the same across all platforms, like that's really interesting for me to watch in terms of like behavior. But I'm very much the same where it's like if I'm gonna do something, what I think is like notable, like what I'm doing with this whole Playerdiff stuff, like I'll try and like pick like a significant name or identity, because I think that's the best move, right? It's like you don't want to be known as like XX commies underscore 420X. You know what I mean? Like you don't want that. Maybe you do, but I think it makes the most sense to like pick something that's at least somewhat brandable that people can find you as. You know, does that make
That's
sense? Like,
yeah. Actually, a lot of the TFT community have started to like brand not only because of like COVID, but probably because of COVID. Because if you want to think of some people like, Spencer, um, Spencer and Zaya. Do you remember Zaya? Like me, Zaya
uh,
only. So he used to be
no.
like in set 3.5, he would be the one who rerolls Zaya and like all the Blade Masters on like stage 2. So that was a comp, the Zaya comp, but he was called me Zaya only, and recently he Jimmy TFT, because that's just like what they want to do. They want to, instead of being called the Hentai God, which was Spencer's name, they want to like maybe make a profession or a real brand for themselves instead of like IRL inting,
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there's always that weird point where you're like, I'm just playing this game for fun, and then
Hmm.
once you climb and you get really good and you find out you actually like it, I think there's always like that. I call it glitter eyes. Like when you get romantic with the idea of like a possible future, you get glitter eyes, and you're like, okay, all right, let's figure out how to actually do this for real. And that's probably the better move instead of being known as hentai god. But it's also like you lose out a bit too of the past brand that you created because some people would only know you from your past name, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's also others like gigantic IQ diff. Like, no one knows who this kid is, but like, he's going to terrorize your lobby. And I mean, he just enjoys, being that kid that gets noticed on streams. Like, who is this guy and why is he fucking so cracked in the game? And it's just like, what direction you want to move forward with in
Yeah,
your in game, your online persona, basically.
yeah, for sure. I remember like that's kind of what it was like back in the day of like early season 1, 2, and 3 of League with like I'm So Gosu. Like nobody really knew who this guy was. He was just like an ADC main. But like he would gatekeep you. Like he'd gatekeep you high diamond challenger. Like everybody who's trying to climb, they would always run into him and he would just crush you. And it's like he
Yeah,
built he built a name that way, and eventually he started making like YouTube videos. But it's not like they were like it wasn't like stream quality. It was really just like a recording of his plays, and like he built a good name for himself just by performance. So that's also an alternative too. I think you and I have a lot to talk about in terms of like building a brand around being a creator. I'd say. Um, so I actually want to like ask you a couple more questions to like get to know you a little bit better. But I remember I was talking to Lino, who's the lead coach for the TFT Discord server. For the 5 of you not listening who aren't in the Discord server, that's discord.gg/teamfighttactics. Um, but I was talking to him about creating content because there's some collaborations I want to do with the coaching team. And he was
hmm
like, "Oh, you should definitely talk to Tsmmaa because he's a really good content creator." And I'm like, "All right, okay." And that's probably the first time like I've really like heard of you. I knew you existed within the server, but like you and I haven't like actually talked.
yeah. I mean, my content I think is very like niche, and like I think I'm trying to do something different than a lot of the people who've previously already like established like a following on content, and I think my content just suits what Lino's looking for, and that's why maybe he suggested me to you. But it's always good to meet friends.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well,
Yeah.
I'd love to talk more about that. Before we get to it, so I'm somebody who joined in set 4.5, right? So
hmm
realistically, I've only been playing TFT for a month and a half at this point, and within 3 weeks, I hit masters. So I learned
hmm
this game like really aggressively. I was practically like scourging the web for any information I could find. So I'm pretty passionate about guides and TFT information. Um, and I have a lot of bones to pick with like the guys that I see right now. So I'm curious on what your thoughts when it comes to like information on how to teach TFT and how, I guess how do you set yourself apart from the crowd. But before we get into that, like tell me a little bit more about what you're trying to do with your content.
So like my content, so like recently I've been trying to, make my content more variety. For example, like small skits, small skits, little rap videos, some music videos about TFT. Like, yeah, like those are very interesting and they're kind of my hobbies that I enjoy doing. But what I've started to realize is like a lot of my community is here for the learning aspect. So, like, although the skits were all like my interests and what I like to do, they weren't really producing the same numbers. And of course, like numbers isn't everything, and we'll probably touch upon that like later. But like, uh, that's just like what I do. So mostly guides, small niche things that I like to do. So my first guide was like the anti-Zed guide, you know, because I was the Zed one trick, but you know the Zed guide was out, and I needed to find a way to like show that I knew what the fuck I was doing, right? And teach people how to stop Zed, most
Right,
importantly.
right.
Yeah, but yeah,
That's
that's
interesting.
just
So like you're kind of the reverse from a lot of people that I've encountered because most people that I've encountered start off with like information, like they start off with like trying to teach, and then they don't get the impact that they're happy with, so then they try to pivot into like these clickbait titles of like 3-star Yasuo, like all this stupid shit, and like try and pivot more into like entertainment. I shouldn't call it stupid, but I'm more on the base of like I'm really interested in like some nerdy shit. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Like I'm really interested in like what are the methodologies and beliefs that people have? Like what's your gaming mentality? And I guess that's like what Playerdiff is really about, right? It's just a way for us to nerd out about what I think are more the geekier parts of the game. But yeah, so it sounds like you kind of did the opposite, where you started from entertainment and then you moved more into like lessons and information, right?
yeah. I mean, like the thing is, I didn't do any business studies, but I figured like, why would people watch, you know, my 3-star highlights versus someone else who already has like fucking maybe 900K subscribers waiting for their next video, like Sean TFT or you know, meme fight tactics, for example. Like they all post their like contents where they, you know, they have their niche and it's working out for them. I just needed to find a way to stand out, basically.
Yeah, and that's the weird part too about this whole content creator game. So I have been studying marketing and branding for quite a long time, and I've also advised clients on like content tactics, structures, and how they can actually put together like building some sort of a content strategy, right? And the interesting part is like TFT is weird because most of the player base is extremely casual, right? Like most of the player
Yeah.
base wants to go for these meme builds. Most of the player base wants to go for like these crazy. I won't call them ultimate bravery builds, but it's along that line of like I'm just gonna force this for the lulls of it. Like I just want to
Yeah.
see this specific interaction, right? So I think it becomes almost like this battle of like which side do you want to cater to? Because on one side, like yeah, you can get views and you can get phenomenal traffic, but I also wonder like how many content creators in the TFT space value
Can it
like
support?
oh
Oh yeah.
oh yeah, I mean okay, we can talk about how much that can support and how viable it is. I really would love to get into that, but I'm thinking more of along the lines of like I wonder how many TFT content creators really think about like their long-term followers, right? Because I've always been a fan personally of this idea of like 1,000 true fans. So I don't know if you have you ever heard of 1,000 true fans?
No, I haven't. But you want to talk
So
about it?
yeah, for sure. So 1,000 true fans is an essay that was written by Kevin Kelly, who is the guy who created. He was the founder of Wired. You know Wired, right?
Yeah, I've seen
Yeah.
some
So he was
videos.
he was the founder of Wired, and in 1,000 true fans, he basically states like all you really need to do to make it like to make a profession is you just need 1,000 true fans. You need 1,000 people who are willing to buy your stuff, no matter what it is. Like they just fuck with you, right? They represent you. They tell you about their friends. They'll buy your books, and not only will they buy your books, but they'll buy multiple copies of your books to give to their friends. That's a true fan,
Hmm.
right? And I've always been of the belief of like, yes, you can go for mass appeal. Like you can go for these clickbaity titles that are super entertaining, but I also wonder like how much impact is that going to have on your actual true following? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and that's kind of the battle that I have, where it's like I've been telling Lux right now, like now's not the time to get impatient with what we're doing. Now's the time for us to really just focus on what we're doing and getting it really good, right? Like
Mhm.
I like almost for me, like views and followers and subscribers is not the metric for me right now. I think for me, I'm more focused on quality and becoming the best host that I possibly can, and trying to get the best conversations that I possibly can. Which I think like I appreciate people like you coming on who don't have any podcast experience, because it really it really pushes me in order to like flex those host muscles to see if I
Mhm.
can have a really good conversation with you. But I think it's through that pursuit of mastery where the actual value comes in, and that's where I actually think we'll have the most impact on our listeners' lives, right? Like somewhere along in this conversation that you and I will have over the next hour and whatever, right? There's probably going to be a 5 minute segment where you or me says something that resonates so deeply with somebody that it could profoundly change their life. And for me, like that's what I'm more focused on. I think when it comes to my content creation, it's more like the pursuit of mastery of the craft, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you could see this a lot in like a lot of the streamers out there. Like sure you'll hit rank 1 one day, and sure you'll get like the big raids, but the thing is, keeping your followers afterwards and when you become old, like when you're not rank 1, how do you keep your following? And honestly, like this new 1000 like really changed my perspective, because the thing is, was very lucky enough, or I don't know if you call it lucky, because I built a little community for myself, and I believe like I have a lot of these fans, right? Or yeah, fans who will stick to me to the end, like who will watch my content, watch my YouTube, partake in my streams, talk in the chats, and a lot of my outside friends who I've invited to come watch once or twice, even though they don't play TFT, are like, wow, like your chat moves a lot faster than, say someone with 400 but who's like popular. Not gonna like name drop, but like maybe like, old TFT pro, like say I don't know. Okay, CS:GO. There's someone called like Forrest. He was doing like a small stream, but his chat was just like not moving, and that just shows like the difference of like what I think is a true fan. Because for me, I appreciate those guys, and I know they will support my content till the end. Yeah, I mean, I probably will use that line a lot in the future.
A thousand true fans. Yeah, let me link it to you. I'll also put it in the description of this episode so other people can check it out. It's
Sounds good.
probably like it's one of the most impactful essays that I've ever read, and I think like it speaks true, right? Because if you're a fan of somebody, the thing that they can do that like really wins you over is just give you attention. It's just like answer your questions and actually make you feel like you matter, and that's something that you have a competitive edge over more popular content creators or streamers, is that they cannot pander to their audience at scale.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. The next question is, what happens if you want to go to the next step? Because like, yeah, 1,000 is good, right? But what if your aspirations are more than 1,000?
Well, I think so. So the essay really is just about like to make a living, all you need is 1,000. I don't think there's anything that says about it in terms of like limitations, and I don't think that there are any limitations, because I think once you have the 1,000 true fans, you can go anywhere, because that means you have 1,000 true advocates, right? Like they'll spread your message, they'll retweet whatever, they'll share your news and events, and I think
Mm-hmm.
it's just only natural that you grow exponentially from there, right?
I just had a crazy idea. Okay, how bad of an idea do you think this is? I go into my Discord server and I say, you're fan one, fan two, fan three, fan four, fine, and then until 1,000. Would you think that would encourage them to following more, or would that discourage them and think of them as a number?
That's actually a pretty interesting idea. So I think there's a couple things to keep in mind here, right? Is that
Hmm.
you need to make sure that I'm a big quotes guy. One of my favorite quotes is "keep the main thing," and one of my other favorite quotes is "major in the major things and minor in the minor things." Right? I'm
Okay.
a very principle heavy person, if you haven't noticed. So I think that if you go out and you start numbering them, you have to make sure that they understand why you're doing this, right?
Yeah.
I feel like if you lead it with something like, "Hey, I'm doing this thing where the first 1,000 people to subscribe to this thing will join my, I don't know, my fucking inner club, right? Where I'll be doing like uh, meet and greets. We'll play games together. I'm happy to answer any questions. It's like a VIP thing. Like if you lead it with that, if that becomes the intention of like, hey, I'm starting a VIP club, but it's only going to be for 1,000 people, then I think you can do that properly because it's not misleading in the sense of like, oh, I'm just fan number 10, right? It's like,
Yeah.
no, you're a VIP and this is a limited slot program. So this is me showing you that you actually have a slot. I think it works in that sense. But I think if you just like go out and number people, I think
They
they'll get
won't
the
get.
wrong
Yeah.
idea. You know what I mean? And they'll feel a little a
I
little
don't know.
shafted.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I understand, and that's like, so you know how on Twitch you can have like mods, right?
Yeah.
And a very simple thing that I do is just like mod everyone in the chat, which I'm starting to look back and thinking like that's not really that's not really like the best idea because people won't feel in a way quote unquote special, right? They won't feel like
Yeah. Yeah.
they have a bigger, I don't want to say meaning, but a bigger place in your heart. Well,
Yeah, it's hard because you can't like giving special treatment is always this tricky, this slippery valley because you can't do it at scale. Like you can't do it at scale in terms of like your own resources. Like there's no way you can give like 10,000 people VIP treatment because then it's no longer
yeah,
VIP, right? Then it's just like special treatment, right? And at the same time, you you can't do it when it comes to like if it's not special, then it's not actually special. Yeah, you know what I mean.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
for
yeah,
the follower, if everybody's getting mod, then it's kind of like okay, I got mod too. Cool.
yeah.
It's
I know,
almost
and
insignificant.
yeah, and I totally agree with that. So I feel like I need to figure out what I want to do and how I want to do it, and that's probably that.
Yeah. Well, you said
Um,
you built up a pretty cool community, right? So how big is that community right now?
yeah. So I first started off building my community by offering a lot of free coaching services. So
Dope. I like that.
yeah, and then I just reached out in the Reddit community. I was like, hey, I'm a challenger slash washed up challenger at the time. I'm willing to I'm willing to give you coaching as long as you join my server and maybe a prime sub if you're feeling, uh like feeling like you want to give a little to me today. But yeah, like that's how I started, and then slowly every coaching session I'll be like, "Hey, do you know how to, make a do you have an editing software?" That's the first thing I started with cuz when I came into content creation, I was not prepared. I had zero experience. I did not know what a video software was. I'm like,
Right.
okay, I know where to start. But luckily, I had people who wanted and decided to help me. So, for example, I got someone to edit my videos, and I got what is it called? I got a thumbnail producer. Like all these small things really added up, and like they weren't insignificant. I noticed everything. So yeah, that's that.
That's pretty crazy. Like that's a really good start, right? Like if you
Yeah.
can get people who are willing to help you out, that's huge. Because right now it's just me and Lux, right? And we're trying to always do things that are like just a little bit beyond our capabilities. And we're like, all right, we got to figure out
hmm
how to do this. We got to learn it. But if you can get fans to help you out, like that's awesome. And that's I'm still trying to figure out how I can do that with Playerdiff because it's going to come soon where we call it our 2.0 rebranding where it's like uh, within my so from my experience right with all the clients that I've worked on in the past and all the case studies I've done I know that it doesn't matter how much branding you do at the very beginning, because you're always going to have a pivot in like a month or 2 or 3 months, right? It always happens where you're like, oh, my audience is actually this. All right, time to change everything. And it's kind of like you don't know who you're going to click with until you actually click with them. It's like you can make guesses of who your target audience is, but until you actually talk to them, you don't know. So I just told Lux like, hey, let's just skip everything and then let's just start working. Let's just start putting in the time, putting in the reps, and then they'll eventually become a point where we rebrand. And we're doing that soon. We're actually working on it pretty heavily right now. And then what's going to happen after that is then we have to focus more on like, okay, how are we going to build audience? How are we going to build true fans, affinity with people? So I'm actually interested in like what your philosophies are. So you've offered free coaching, right? And then you also like ask for help during like your interactions with them. What other things do you do, or at least aspire to do, when it comes to like building up your following, or your community, we'll say?
So recently, like I haven't been, you know, as active as I wanted to be, but um, like I just try and do the most because I know that I'm not as privileged. I don't have like lobby two connections. Like I won't be able to get the big juicy raids. Like I also like so other ways I've been trying to reach out is like talk to small streamers, get their raids, intermingle with their communities, and I'll let you in like one of my next projects that I'm trying to start.
Okay, all
So
right, okay.
secret information. So my birthday's coming up, and you know how like in the birthdays you want to try and do a subathon, try and engage your viewers, make them know that
Yeah, yeah.
it's gonna be a happy occasion. So I'm actually hosting, because I recently broke up, a dating show for one of my friends, the guy who I was telling that does the video editing for me.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I'm doing a little dating show for him, and yeah, I'm just getting a bunch of smaller streamers that are interested in participating, and we're probably gonna have a fun time, chatting. And I don't know, I'm not too sure what's gonna happen in the dating show, but it'll be fun. I got like people helping me with the questions. They won't be like, like what do you want to do on your first date type of thing. It'll be interesting. So that's
Damn.
that's mine.
I need friends like you. I'm going through a breakup. I need friends like you who are gonna give me a dating show. What the fuck?
Yeah, I mean, hey, maybe next time. If this dating show is a success, I'll hook up every single guy in the CSG community.
My birthday's in August, by the way.
Oh, it's
Uh,
time.
yeah, yeah.
I
That's
know.
I always like the idea of those kind of shows. I'll give you like a little secret. This so for me, I'm coming
Hmm.
from a position where I was working really hard for the past 2 years at a startup that I made with some really close friends, and I had a medical condition like come back, and because of it, I couldn't like work as hard as I really wanted to. So I resigned from the company and I sold my shares back. Um, so I was in this weird position of like, okay, I don't really have anything to do. I don't really need to worry too much about money. What's next, right? And I came back to TFT. Well, I didn't even come back. I came to TFT, right? Because I played like 3 games in set one, and that was it. I never like really bothered with it. And I started
Yeah.
playing it a bit because I had interest in going into chess. So I'm like, this is kind of similar. Sure, why not? And I actually had a friend who wouldn't play games with me because they were too busy ranking, and they were like they like high plat, so I couldn't rank with them unless I was plat two, right? So I was
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you know what? Fuck you. I'm gonna play TFT ranked, and I'm gonna get the plat, so you can't fucking ignore me. And then I pretty much climbed above them, and the rest is history. But that really got me into like the TFT game, and I had to learn like really fast, right? And I'm like you, where like I realized like, okay, I don't have a lot of connections, so what can I do to like build connections? Um, and the easiest thing, which is like a hack for a lot of people, is just start a podcast.
Yeah.
Seriously,
I
that's it.
think
Like That's it. Like the amount of connections that I've made through this podcast are ridiculous. Like within a really short span of time, I've built like a really good network that also looks very promising to tap into other people as well. Right. And it's not from like a skeezy kind of like scammy perspective. It's like you kind of go to people hand in hand and you're like, hey, my name's Blind. I'm working on the show to talk about this, this, and this. I'm really passionate about this. Um, I have friends who've told me that you'd be really good to talk to you about this. Would you be interested in coming on the show? And like the funny thing is like some of the closest connections that I've built so far to this date are people who have declined to come on the show. Like they're either
Really?
like they're either too busy or like they don't feel qualified. But it's like we have conversations around those things. You know what I mean? Like it's very hardly like a do you want to come on the show? Yes or no kind of thing. Like very hardly do people just say like no flat out. Most people are very open to like starting a discussion about it, right? Just kind of like how you and I we've been talking like here and there before we actually like came on the show, right? So it's been really great for me to just like make connections and at the same time like learn from other people. And I think especially within gaming, I think we lack a lot of like authentic relationships. I feel like a lot of people are trying to game networking and gaming a little too hard in the wrong way, if that makes sense.
Really? I feel
Yeah.
like I kind of get the maybe it's just because of my community. I feel like I'm maybe that keener who wants to network, for the networking, but like everyone else I've met has really been just like trying to just have fun and like meet as many cool people as possible. And honestly, like a lot of people don't have that like malicious drive as you as you think, I think. And it's
So
just
yeah,
like,
I wouldn't
yeah.
say that it's malicious. I would say it's kind of like carrot and stick, right?
Yeah.
Like I feel like there's a little bit too much flexing, and there's not enough like, for lack of a better term, being vulnerable, right?
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
think it's really easy to like come across and be like, "Hey, I'm this person. I got 5 million subscribers." Da 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 da, and like go off and list your rap sheet. You know what I mean? Instead of like
Yeah.
just like, "Hey, what's up? How are you? My name's Blind," and just like
Being a
having
human, yeah.
being human, yeah, like having transparent communication in that sense, right? And
Mhm.
it's funny because like the way I do it is like I always start off the DMs with like my backstory of like who I am, right? So when I message people, like, "Hey, my name is Blind. I am the events leader for not the leader. Sorry, I'm I'm a part of the event team for the TFT community here. Here's a Discord link, and I'm also working on a podcast. Here's what I'm into. How are you?" Right? And like I always kind of like say it first, so I don't have to bring it up later because I don't want the conversation to be a brag sheet about me. I want the conversation to be like wherever the wind takes us, right? Like if we can't
Mhm.
jive in a DM, then it's like, well, we obviously can't work together, right?
Yeah, no, I think that's such a good idea. I feel like I might use this technique for myself in the future because I think, okay, although like it's different in the workplace and like every time you're in the work, because I just recently started working, every time in the
Nice.
workplace you want to try and put like your best foot forward, trying to get noticed, and like it's different for every environment, right? Some people don't like those braggy types, so then there are some companies who don't have time to like look at individuals, and that's just like where the competitive nature comes from. Like from school you're told that like, yeah, there's only 10 spots for this job, go for it, go for the neck, brag, over exaggerate, talk your shit, right? And I think it's just not the same in gaming, and maybe because of that idea, like a lot of people are very scared to reach out to bigger names. It's also the fact that like TFT's community is mostly based in Twitch, where you can interact with a lot of your favorite names. But the thing is, like, if you want to get noticed, it's really hard, right? How can you be noticed in a wave of 5,000 people all spamming Omega Lol or boom, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
like it's hard, dude, because again, like going to this idea of like how do you give more than 1,000 people special treatment,
Yeah.
right? Like I don't think it's possible. I don't think it's scalable. But again, I'm also like not super into Twitch culture. I could be wrong on
Mhm.
this, right? I never. I'm always hesitant to say that I'm right on things because the more you learn about things, the more you learn how much you don't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like it's hard for me to like really make bold claims, and I think, in all honesty, like I think transparency trumps all, and I think there's a difference between being like, oh, I'm an open book, versus like let's cut the crap.
Yeah.
I think there's a very big difference, and I feel like when it comes to like in a professional environment, because I work corporate for a pretty long time. Um, I feel like cutting the like being able to cut the crap is probably the biggest skill that I've ever learned when it comes to like social interactions in like culture in like a company culture. Like one of the best bosses that I've ever had, like would laugh and joke with you, and like he was the loudest laugher in the room. Like you could hear him all the way down the hall, right? Like he would
Yeah.
have a hoot with you, right? But at the same time, like 5 minutes later, you could walk into his office and he'd have like the most straight edge conversation with you. Like he'd cut the crap and
Mhm.
tell you exactly how it is, but he was never a dick about it, right? He was just being honest. And I feel like that's such a huge skill set to have. It's like there's a duality when it comes to personalities, right? Like even when it comes to um, gaming personalities, because the persona that you have on stream is different than who you actually are as a person, right? Like
Yeah.
I know a lot of people who are extremely nice in their videos and their streams, and then not that they're toxic, but they're potty mouths, like actually as a person, right? And it's like there's always this duality we're playing, regardless if it's with professional life, regardless if it's gaming. And I think the problem with gaming is that it's too young for us to actually know what the right move is. You know what I mean? Like what do TFT celebrities and content creators mold off of, right?
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, also in like the Twitch scene, like you're kind of expected to, I don't know, to deal with people's shit, and like people who like say quote unquote mauled or get mad at like say backseaters are often looked down upon because they're like they can't handle the internet trolls, right? People who the angry, what are they called, the keyboard warriors, like they
Social
can't
justice
handle it.
warriors.
No, the keyboard warriors.
Oh,
So like they
keyboard
just type,
warriors.
and then like if you can't handle it, you're just not fit for the profession. And that's why like half the time people just don't read the chat because they know it's probably not going to be anything too interesting.
Yeah, that's a tough one, right?
Yeah.
Because you very much do need to be able to put up with that. Um, I feel like I'm interesting. Uh, are you familiar with like Gary V, like Gary Vaynerchuk?
Mhm.
Oh, you are.
A lot of people like have mixed opinions on him though. How do you feel
Yeah,
about? I find his way of thinking very interesting. Like,
I love him. I love him personally. But
mhm.
what I adopted from him really is kind of like this like empathy for people online. Like when people are complete dickbags, I kind of feel bad for them. You know, like I like genuinely, I feel bad. It's like wow, like you're spreading so much negativity and hating on people online to people that you've never met. It's like
Yeah.
I'm I'm genuinely concerned for like your well being, and I hope everything's good with you because anyone that I know who is happy and successful and fulfilled, spreading negativity in general is just like completely last on their list of priorities. And that's like the same
Mhm.
thing for me, right? Like you've probably like seen me in the Discord. Like I just give compliments and I try to like make people feel good all the time
Yeah. I
because
mean,
I need more of that in my life. So I'm gonna try and be the change. You know.
yeah. I mean, TFT is a very molding game, right? If you don't get it your way, then you need to find someone to blame. You need to find. I mean, it's same in all types of game. Like Valorant, yeah, they're gonna look at the bottom fragger every time they lose a round. like, or, but like TFT hits different because yeah, since we got Mort Dog, we can blame Mort Dog, but it's also like where else do you put your mold except for the people who high roll, right? The people you that high roll usually like maybe streamers once or twice, and like what happens? I don't know. I feel like TFT is a weird dynamic of a game.
No, you're absolutely right. I've been saying this a lot on the podcast recently, where it's like the cognitive dissonance in TFT is so absurdly large because there's nobody to blame. Like you either
Right.
blame the game slash the game developers or somebody who steals an item from you at carousel, but like none of which are valid reasons to actually blame the game. Right? It's like realistically in TFT, the only person that you can blame is yourself. But
Yeah.
for people who don't want to believe that it's their fault, they will blame everything else, no matter how much little sense it makes. Right? Where it's like I was playing Valorant the other day with Do you know who Floki is?
No, no.
Floki is
But
the original founder of the TFT Discord, and he left to go become the founder of the Valorant Discord.
oh,
Yeah,
money
so
man.
I've become pretty good friends with him recently, and he was like, "Hey, do you want to come try Valorant?" I'm like, "Sure, okay." And then we play, and then he's like, "All right, we're playing a rank game." I'm like, "Why am I playing a rank game?" And like, it felt bad because I knew I was doing poorly because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, right? And like people, like teammates are just blaming me. I'm like, this feels fucking bad, right?
Hmm.
But you don't have that in TFT. Like TFT, the only valid excuse is like I played it poorly,
Yeah.
which is like it's funny when you look at it. Like all the top level players will always rag on themselves. They'll be like, "I'm just shit at this game. I'm just a shit player." And it's like it feels bad for me because it's like, no, don't say that. You're actually a really good player. Like you don't have to beat yourself up just because you have faults. You can improve on them. But at the same time, like I think that's the proper mentality where it's like everything is my fault in TFT.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole different thing. Like in the middle of like set 4 / set 4.5, I was gonna write a little blog on like the mental game of TFT, and we'll see if I still have the mental energy to write that. But it's just like like how crazy is the League of Legends system that the top players, especially like look at Nubal, like this morning I checked his LP, he's like 1700 LP, 1700, yeah, 1700 LP. And like how many games, how many pings, how many like different RNG situations you have to go through to continue and play on stream or even off stream that many games and reach that high lengths for what, right? And how can you go through these mental blocks? It's just like TFT is just so weird like that. That like
No, it's that's the thing I love about this game though is that it's all mental. Like I am honestly so bent on trying to start this conversation about TFT is just mental. It's all mental. Like it's like there's so little micro in the game. Like sure, you can try and roll down 60 gold. Sure, you can sweat scouting and positioning. That's like nothing compared to like team fighting in League of Legends as an ADC.
yeah,
Like it's
yeah.
nothing like fucking playing StarCraft and trying to have like 200 APM, right? Like the micro is so little in TFT, but the mental, dude, the mental is so important.
And like you have to think about like tournaments as well. Like tournaments is just like a whole different world. Like I like playing TFT, but I know when to take my breaks. But until I'm fucking in a regionals playing fucking 6 to 5 games a day at nighttime where I'm fucking drained out, like I have a real life. Usually not. Usually I play like maybe 4 games before the tournament. But like I'm starting to think maybe I should just take a nap before my tournaments because if I go into those tournaments tired, I know, sure, I'll go 1-1 like a regular human being, and then I'll go 8-8-8 because I'm just fucking drowsy and tired. So the whole setup of TFT is so not set up for people who can't do endurance gameplay, which is
Yeah, yeah. No, I'd agree with you. That's why I haven't been playing TFT for the past 2 weeks because it's like I am too busy, I am too drained, and I mentally am not there. Like there's
yeah.
going to be a week where I will grind straight to like GM. I'm going for GM. I got Masters last set.
Pog.
There'll be a week where like I will grind straight, but like I need to focus like purely on it, and that's what it is. It's a game of mental. Like I tell some new players, it's like, hey, I didn't know fucking shit all about the game. I hit diamond just because I had a good mental. Like that's it, right? Like as long as you don't fucking tilt off the face of the earth, just take your fourths, take your thirds, and like you will climb. Just be consistent with it. Like
Yeah.
don't tilt, right? And it's hard. Like the hard thing about tilting is you can't tell somebody that they're tilting.
Yeah, no, if you tell them to stop playing, they'll play more. Like a friend of mine caught in. He's someone who can go from 900 LP to 200 without blinking an eye. He'll say,
Holy
"I'm
shit.
playing well. I'm just, not hitting." And then like, what can I do? Respect. Good luck, friend.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes that's the mentality you need to have, but there's also the point where it's like, okay, well, I've lost this much today. Maybe I just
Yeah.
need to take a break, right?
I
And
mean
maybe
that
it's. Go ahead, go ahead.
no, no, that's just what I do, but yeah, continue.
Yeah, maybe I think it's like you need to have like that almost like that Uber awareness because you have to understand like you can't really tell when you're tilting, right? So it's like you
Hmm.
need to almost have this Uber awareness and be like, okay, well, there's a problem. There's probably a really good chance that I'm tilting. I should take a break.
Yeah. I mean, that's just that's just that's just TFT. That's just the game we play.
So actually, you touched on it a bit. I want to go a little bit deeper into like tournaments. Have you played in a lot of tournaments?
Yeah, so I've done Challenger Series, small tournaments like Friday Night Rising, and I mean Fight Night Rising, and I've also tried like open qualifiers. Have you heard of like open qualifiers? So those are like 500 to like 512 players go for like a top eight, and then maybe they'll qualify for a regional spot to try and go for world's qualification. But like that's that's just how tournaments are, right? And I mean, I like the idea of tournaments. It's just I haven't been very successful in them.
Uh-huh.
Not a tournament player.
So I'm actually becoming more increasingly curious about tournaments. One of the goals that I really want to do is start hosting a lot more tournaments and start finding sponsorships for actual prize pools. So I'm curious on like what you think are the best tournament formats that could work, and what do you think is like a worthwhile prize pool for a regular person?
Yeah, so like you heard me complain, right? I was complaining about, the tournament format, but like if you really think about it, it's so hard to format this game. Like do you want to play one game per day for like 2 weeks straight? Is that like a better strategy, or is it just, power through these? Everyone goes through the same grim, like, and I think honestly, I like the statue of like 3 to 4 games a day over like a day period, which forces tournaments to become like invite only, like the one they did in Dawnbringer, where they take the 128 highest signups, and then they battle it out over 3 days. But there's only 5 games instead of six, right? And I think that's a good start towards a good tournament format. And the prize pool, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know because I'm just like a newbie. Like I don't know what's a good, like how can I make a profession out of this? Do I need to start winning tournaments? Is it like 5K per tournaments, 20K per tournaments? And like also the TFT scene doesn't have a lot of, money in it, per example. So
Yeah, these are all good questions, and these are all things that I'm trying to tackle. So I'm just curious to your opinion, right? It's like, what I like. I'm probably not going to get a 5K fucking prize pool the first time around, right? But like, what would entice in what would attract somebody to want to enter a tournament for
Okay.
X amount of money? You know what I mean? Like,
I mean,
is
here, I'll give you an example. So there's one currently going on in OCE for 2K, and basically every OCE, big OCE streamer has signed up for it. For example, like Jane, Esha, Jose, Martha, like they all signed up for this 2K tournament. So like having 2K is a good starting point if you want to invite and have big names, right? Like Soju, Kiyun. And like the thing is, when you invite them, they all talk about it within each other. So like don't try and hide secrets because that's how you lose customers, I think. I don't know. Who knows?
don't try to hide secrets? Is that what you said?
Yeah, because they all talk
In
to
what
each other.
sense?
Like if you're gonna offer, what is it called? Special treatment to someone, you better tell them not to spread it or else like they'll talk, right? For
True,
example, if
true.
you offer like Soju, I don't know, like maybe $300 to participate in your tournament versus like Hyun, maybe you offer him like less. Like
Is
I
that
don't
a
know.
thing? Does tournament bribing exist? Is that a
I'm
thing?
not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But
But
yeah,
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying regardless, right? Like, just
yeah.
be careful because they all talk, and you should keep that in mind too, right? I think like that's just a mentality to have regardless for everything. Like people always
Mhm.
talk, right? You'd be silly not to assume that they would talk, even if you told them not to talk.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not. I had thoughts about organizing my own tournament, but like I think it's just so negative EV to even like consider the idea. It's just like because a lot of the money is coming out of the pockets. Sponsorships and TFT is kind of, Monka W.
Yeah, so I'm actually trying to change that.
Yeah.
That's a
The
big
thing is,
reason why I joined the events team in the server.
yeah, I mean, have you gotten any luck with, any big sponsors for the TFT community itself?
Not yet. I have made a lot of connections though. The reason why I haven't, the reason why I'm saying not yet is because I think there's a lot of work to do in terms of like the back end of the events team, in terms of like what our capabilities are, what our functions are, just like team functions. There's a lot of work that we have to do in the back end for me to like properly sell it. Because I think like you can't sell something you don't believe in. You know what I mean? You just can't. So I'm trying to make as many improvements as I can on the back end and trying to make it as good as possibly can. But I made a lot of connections recently with other event organizers who have been willing to like give me their contacts at certain departments. Um, and I honestly like what it could be is I just think there's not a lot of experience in terms of getting sponsorships, so that's why the scene has not evolved to the point where it has been. And there's also some difficulties when it comes to casting as well, which might be a conversation for another time. But I think there's a lot of room for improvement for TFT in general. I'm pretty optimistic about it. I think it's just going to take work and it's just going to take time. And like it's unfair that people are comparing TFT to League in terms of like the esports, because it's like we're in the second year of TFT.
Yeah. But like why people are upset is because LOR, the brother game, is getting like more attention and more sponsorships and more, love from Riot Games while we're here like small indie company just trying to survive with Riot Mortdog and his homies, and that's why people are a little upset. Like, cause if there was, more efforts put into TFT, there would be more people watching. Like last year, like who watched the season 3 World Championships? Like absolutely no one. And this year's a little better because like the Chinese people made an effort, They had like a really cool website set up, and it's just like, at what stage will we be content, and like how far can we go, right? And like their team is relatively small, so that's just like the difference between one and two.
Yeah, it's tough, right? Like if you look at it from a business perspective, like LOR is within an established genre. You know what I mean? Like
Hmm.
the card game genre is has already proven proof of concept. Auto chess is different because it's completely new, right?
Yeah,
And I understand. I understand that there are things to be upset about, but I can also understand it from the other perspective as well, where it's like, well, we know 100% that this will take off. This other game, we're not super sure on it, so maybe we should not put in like $10 million into it
yeah, yeah.
because it's a
I
lot.
know.
It's a lot of money. Like it's not just a prize pool. You know what I mean? Like the production quality, the staffing, that's a lot of money.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure in the back end of stuff, but that's probably what they decided best for their company. It's just like, play it safe. Mort Dog, you gotta do whatever you want. You can like talk to your people. Like, or Mort Dog is like a whole different lesson. Like, he's just a very interesting designer who wants to talk to his community, which at first, at like the purest standpoints, is, really cool and genuine. Like, that's so cool that he wants to talk to us and learn. But the thing is, he gets all the lashbacks, the Mort Dog. So like in CS:GO, there's who's the creator of CS:GO? The
I
Fabian?
have no idea.
Yeah, but people make memes of his face, and like, he's been to one or two press conferences, but he doesn't have much, interaction with the community. Mort Dog is like the complete opposite. He will stream every Saturday, Sunday. He has even like a must answer in his Twitch. So that's just like insane that he does that for us. But besides that, like, it's really tough for him because, uh, he takes one vacation and then one thing's wrong with the game. Ah, more dogs on vacation. The game is fine. Like, like,
See,
let the guy breathe.
I think what he's doing is historic. I really do. I think that
Yeah.
what he's doing right now and how it goes is going to set precedent for every other game developer that comes after him. Not just in TFT, but the world.
Really? Do you believe that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right? What he's doing is unheard of. Right? There has not been, as far as to my knowledge, there has not been another game developer that is as vocal and as involved in the community as Ward Dog. So
Mm-hmm.
he's essentially the guinea pig, right? Essentially, he is the guinea pig. The rest of the world, the other game developers, the other studios are watching. If they are not watching now, they will come back to this and they will read it as a case study of
Mm-hmm.
why game developers should or should not be
Like
vocal with their
interacting with their
community.
community.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I genuinely do believe that. I genuinely believe this will set precedent for the rest of the world. And that also makes me extremely sad because I feel like there's a large majority of the player base who don't understand the gravity of the situation and they're just taking it for granted.
Yeah. I mean, uh, we'll see. It's just up to Mort Dog. And it's also like the streamers, right? They created Mort Dog. They created Get Mort Dog, and you know stuff like Shadow Mort Dog, you know, More Doggy Dog, like, it's all created by the community. And honestly, like, I'm not sure how to handle it. You just like, cause like he also does YouTube. Like most of his patch rundowns are for his own personal gain. So like, it's really like we're not unsure what he's really thinking of. Who is Mortog? Who is he really? Does he
Yeah,
even do the
just
balancing?
that's why I'd love to get him on the show and just talk to him. You know, like not interview format, just shooting the shit like we're doing right now. Because I feel like it almost feels like it's a little restricted in terms of the communication he's doing. Like it's like some things are really vocal about, and then other things it's like radio static. And I feel like that also causes a lot of frustration for the player base. Um, and it's tough, right? Because this is uncharted territory. It's like how much information does he reveal? And even still, it's like I'm glad that he's working in new people and like people from the team. Um, Ryan Kent's been pretty prominent. And I forget the other guy. I'm so sorry. I forgot your name. Who was
Static
involved?
probably.
Yeah, Static,
Static
right?
probably.
Like I'm glad that he's involving more people from his team into the communications because I think that matters. I think people don't understand exactly what Mortdog's responsibilities are and what he's in charge of and what he's not in charge of. Right? Like the fact that his team can run a B patch without Mort being there, like while Mort's on vacation, says a lot about what's going on through that team dynamic.
And you know what? Maybe we'll get an inside if you catch him into a podcast, but I'm pretty sure he would love to. Like, I'm pretty sure, like, I never got to talk to Mort Dog except for through that, the staff chat of TFT Discord. And it's just like, I think that's just super good that you have that connection. Maybe one day he'll hire us, smiley face. And then we'll
Maybe.
understand the true depths of the game. But yeah.
Maybe, yeah, who knows? I mean, my goal, at least for the next few months, is like to try and become the best tournament organizer I can. So we'll see if
Hmm.
we'll see if there's ever any paths that cross down with Mort Dog and running tournaments. I'm sure there will be.
Although, okay, there are a lot of communities who already have this like tournament formats. If you're curious on like some people who do like these tournaments, I can hook you up. But basically, like the boys tournaments, there's someone. Okay, Rosma recently got signed to a team to host like a lot of tournaments, like Hyperspace or something. But yeah, there's
Space
Hyperspace.
Station?
I'm not sure. No, I don't think it's Space Station. I think Space
Okay.
Station's the esports org, right? But yeah, just those guys. You can just use them as templates. If you want to use their ideas or not is up to you.
Yeah, I'm always happy to connect with anyone. Always happy to
Yeah.
connect with anyone. Would really love that. I really appreciate that.
Wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
So, would you see yourself as like a competitive person, or do you see yourself as in like someone who would rather collaborate than go against? For example, would you be interested in like I don't want to say like collaborating in a tournament setting with someone, or would you be interested in like trying to compete against the tournament organizers? Is like my way of thinking.
Both.
But how can you manage that balance?
So so I've approached this very interesting I've approached this very interesting life philosophy right now where I how do I explain this?
Live fast.
I'm very aware that for me, what I fundamentally believe is that play creates culture.
Play
Right?
creates culture.
Play creates culture. So I have the belief that play is a fundamental experience of being not only a human but just being alive. Right? The ability to make uh, nothing mean everything in the method of a game is very much human experience, right? So
What does that mean?
what it means is that we have created this narrative for thousands of little mini games that we play in our lives, and we've created this narrative like this is our life. But really, when you break it all down, it's like these are all just very little games that we think have extremely real consequences, right? So, for example, a lot of people get really upset when somebody does not follow the rules of the road. When they're either going too slow below the speed limit, when they're not staying between the lines, when they don't signal, We get very upset when somebody doesn't follow the rules. Like in the same sense that we get upset when somebody doesn't follow the rules of League of Legends, right?
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
I've destructed my whole life into games. I see everything we do as like a little mini game, right? So for me, I'm extremely competitive, but I'm also very aware of what I compete in, right? So I'm
Mhm.
very aware of like what metrics I follow. I'm very aware of like what is a win for me, what is a point for me. Um, so in the essence of like, I would love to crush everybody at everything I do, right? In the essence of
Yeah.
like, I would love to crush everybody and be the best tournament organizer the world has ever seen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. I mean, that's just a good mindset to be, you know? Like you want to be the best you can and the best at it. I respect that. But what's the other part you're saying?
Yeah. However, right, I also understand that there's a bigger game for me, which is like living the best life possible, being the best person I possibly can, having the most amount of impact. Like I kind of have this like small, uh, I kind of have this small mission of mine. Is like I'm going to be the best gamer in the world, and for me, the
Mhm.
the best gamers push the meta, right? So like I want to push the meta of the world. Is kind of like how I break it down to me, right?
Yeah.
So for me to do that, I know that I also need to collaborate with people and make friends with people and help each other because I think that's
Yeah.
incredibly important. It makes everybody's lives better, and it's a win-win. Like everybody has to gain, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
in the same aspect of like I brought you here so I could pick your mind about certain things. Like you walked away with a couple things that I knew that you didn't know.
Yeah. I mean, trying to get to the top is all about like, sharing secrets, being like surrounding yourself with people who you believe can help you. And yeah, I mean, you don't really think about this part, but like how you can help them, right? And it's just like a trade-off, which I think is really important, especially in trying to build any business, any
Yeah,
company.
absolutely, absolutely. I'm always trying to figure out how I can help people. I'm always trying to bring value. I'm always trying to. I almost like 9 times out of 10. The last thing I always say to someone is like, "If there's anything I can ever do for you, let me know." Right.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm.
I I think the funny thing too is like I genuinely believe that if you give people advice or information or secrets, as you called it, you actually benefit the most. Right. It's like
Really?
yeah. It's like there's this book called fuck, what's it called? I'm searching it real quick.
Hmm.
There's this book called The X. Damn it, what is it? I have it somewhere. It's about uh, the expert of expertise, right? Like it's about how do you build expertise? How do you become an expert, right? And within this book, he shares this idea of the person who gains the most from writing a book is not the reader, but the writer, because it's through explanation that we gain clarity.
Really? True
Yeah,
explanation, you gain clarity.
yeah, right. It's like you
Hmm.
don't actually know something until you teach it to somebody else.
Oh, okay. I mean, like my backup plan is to become a teacher, right? And I feel like becoming a teacher is like one thing, but knowing how to properly teach students in like the current age is another.
It's another thing. Yeah, it's completely different, right? And before you can teach somebody something, you need to understand the material so well. Like you
Yeah.
you 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 almost need to be able to understand the material like 5 times more than when you're actually trying to teach.
Yeah. And like honestly, it's also like in TFT, right? Sure, like I could backseat you to first and just teach you my style, but like it's a whole different level to try and understand like how like the student's being like how can I make him the best player he could be, you know? And
For sure.
that's just like what's important in trying to like become a teacher or coach or in my like idea is like the best coach out there in the community. cheapest, more like people, like even my own students would tell me like, should I get coaching from Robin? And sometimes like it hurts my soul to hear that, because like, ah, why am I not the best? Is it because I don't charge $35 per price, or is it because he does something different? And honestly, it was that something different that he did, and he's just more clearer. He's more like, I don't know. He has a better understanding of the game. Although not in my eyes. Like, to be a TFT player, you just need to know, like, you just have to believe that you're the best in the game, and that's just like, no, 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 honestly, because you know how like it's all about mental. You can't climb if you don't believe you're the best in your lobby. If you don't,
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
if you always think you're second place, you're not going anywhere, right?
yeah,
And that's just it, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of things too is like this is actually how I became really good friends with Lux, because when I was climbing in TFT, I needed coaching, so I found out I was referred to Lux by a friend,
Hmm.
and after he coached me, I coached him on his coaching and his business, right? And I'm like,
Yeah.
here are 5 things you're not doing, which you can do, which are huge, easy wins for you. Here are 5 things that you need to do better. And it's like, again, going back to this topic that we kind of started off with, where it's like, I see a lot of people in the gaming space struggling with marketing and branding, right? And it's like, if you
Yeah.
compare to Robin, it's like, I would pose the question, right? I would pose the question of, disregard like what the qualifications may be. So disregard who's the better player, right? Between you and
Hmm.
Robin Songs, right? How much content are you putting out versus how much content is Robin putting out?
Yeah. I mean, what do you mean by content? Like during the session,
No, just
or
content, just YouTube videos, streams,
oh,
tweets,
streams? Yeah.
content.
Yeah.
Because
No, I can.
people will pay what they think is a worthy price, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And
However, the more interesting discussion becomes of how do they start to quantify what is a worthy price?
yeah, because in my mind, like these hourly rates that New Balance charges and others, like I don't think that one game of TFT should be able to get $100. Like I think that's just crazy. But he's Nubao is allowed to charge that because he is the best in the world right now, and he can do it better than everyone else, according to the ladder, of course.
Yeah,
Of
yeah,
course, like there's some high challengers who are like, he's a top four player, and that's just a whole different discussion, right? That's just competitiveness of the nature of the game. But yeah, it's just like the difference of prices is just like, because I know some people who are willing to spend $60, 70,
yeah,
90, one hundred
yeah.
dollars for one session, and I'm just like, why would you? It's just not worth it in my eyes.
Well, in
But
your eyes, because you're you're a different player, right?
yeah, but if they need
Right.
to know, yeah,
Often, like the funny thing, you know what the most reliable drug in pharmaceuticality is for pharmacology? I don't even know what the fucking word is.
maybe Tylenol.
No, it's the placebo.
Oh, I see,
Yeah,
I see.
it's the sugar pill, right? It's mental's interesting because what comes with mental comes belief, right? And
Yeah,
some people really do believe that lower price tag means lower quality.
I know, and my friends have told me like, hey, I've charged a student like even like a master's student who's been my student has told me like, hey, I've charged someone like $50 for an hour, and they offered to do like fucking 5 sessions with me. You should just up your price and believe in yourself. And I was just like, wow, like, does it really work like that? And
Yeah, they choose the value, right? You're not the one
yeah,
who gets to choose the value. You can choose how much they get, but they're the ones at the end of the day that have to pull the trigger and pay the money, right? That's just their decision to make, right?
yeah,
If I were you, I would be interested to see what would happen if you just
fucking
keep your
send it.
keep your price tag, like keep your price tag, but also offer a alternative option with like three times the
Hmm.
price.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, it doesn't hurt, right? People can always just go to original price tag and say, "Hey, give me one of those cheeseburgers instead of that premium, triple slice."
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
but yeah.
But what you will find is that the biggest change will be in your own belief in yourself, that you're worthy of that price point.
Hmm.
And it's tough, right? Like pricing is something that trips up a lot of people in business in general.
Yeah, I mean, it first started with like I wanted to be different. I wanted to give that free coaching. I wanted to,
Yeah,
be that different player, right? Be
yep.
that high challenger who gives this free. But like the thing is, like it got tiring. It was just like the same people every time.
Yeah,
It's
well, that's another reason to up your price, right? The best time to up your price is when you're on the drive home and you're thinking to yourself, "Do I want to fucking do that again?" That's the best time to up your price.
okay, okay, makes sense.
Yeah, it becomes dynamic, right? You have to understand that as you do more and more coaching, your experience grows as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's no reason for you to keep the same price tag,
Exactly. I
right?
mean, I'm not as high as I used to be, but I'm still, top 0.1%, right? It's just like a mental diff. But yeah.
It's always mental diff, right? It's always what you believe.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Ah,
what you are searching for, what you value, determines how the world manifests around you.
yeah, I mean, that's so hard to like what if the world just doesn't believe in you? Then what? It's just fucked.
Whoever said the world doesn't believe in you?
The world, I mean, who says the world does believe
Ah,
in me?
well, again, it's you, right? It's yourself convincing yourself that the world doesn't believe in you. And this is all really hard concepts to explain to people. Like if people actually have a mental block or they have difficulties in like self value and self belief, these are all conversations that are incredibly hard to just have with somebody because at the end of the day, you can't convince someone. Like going back to the topic of you can't tell someone that they're tilting. It's the same sense of like you can't tell somebody that they're worth it because it doesn't matter what their ears hear. If they don't believe it themselves, it's worthless.
Yeah.
You know,
Okay.
it's
Yeah.
worthless. It's like you probably have this where it's like you have a friend who's like depressed, and then they're saying like, "Oh, I'm worthless. I'm not worth anything. I'm yada yada yada," and you're like, "No, you're an awesome person. You're great. You're funny." You give them a list of compliments, but it's like they just throw it out the window,
Yeah.
right?
Right. I mean, that's just how it is, right? I mean, that's the world works in a funny way, but yeah.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know. I know you didn't want to go too. This is one of those topics that we probably wanted to stay a bit away from. So I understand. We just naturally got here. But
yeah.
hey, I think now's a great time for us to wrap up here. It's been so much fun talking with you. I actually wish I had a little bit more time. Do you have any socials that you want to promote? Anywhere anybody can find you, like Twitter, Twitch?
Yeah, I mean, the first place I usually take my people is like my YouTube. My YouTube, although has a little like variety content right now, it's often filled with like guides of like any like interesting comms. For example, I would like highlight, LeBlanc or Zed or like all the degen comps that really come out and like how do you like
All the DJ cups.
because like it's not fun to like learn the meta comms because honestly like I'm a fast learner. If I see my opponent play it once, I could probably just replicate that, call it a day. But knowing the small nuances and like all the degen comps like oh put Kennen beside Zed like just for a step for reference or LeBlanc goes in the middle, jumps to the back, stun insta kills two people like small stuff as that. Start with my YouTube. That's where you'll find the most interesting comments. But if you really want to get to know me, like talk to me, my stream is also just my name, twitch.tv/Tsmmaa. And I usually stream 9:30 to 11:30 p.m. EST. But yeah, it's just like a lot of coaching sessions, talking to my friends, seeing how it goes. But yeah, that's all my socials I'll probably plug for now. Not a TikTok type of guy, you know?
No worries, that's all good. It's all good. And you are a coach on the TFT Discord. People can join us at discord.gg/teamfight tactics. Is there
Yeah.
anything else you wanted to say before we sign off here?
No, thank you, Blind. You made this experience very, I lost track of time really quickly. At first, I was like, hey, I'll clock in my 30, you know, tell him what he wants to hear. but but I feel like we got a lot of interesting topics and I learned a lot from you. Honestly, after this, I'll probably, reach out to you, get some of that marketing brain of yours, try and
Yeah, for
help.
sure, for sure. Yeah, for anytime. Seriously, hit me up anytime. Hit me up
But yeah,
anytime. I always love talking about that kind of stuff. And I told you, the hour passes by quick, right? Like the first like 15 minutes are kind of like, yeah, okay, and then like it's like, bam, it's an hour, and you're like, holy shit.
but yeah, no, that's all I want to talk about today. I think hopefully you're happy with the content that I just spewed out. But yeah,
Hey, I'm happy to just talk to you and get to know you better, right? Like,
yeah,
it's I like I said, I'm not really worried about views and people watching and subscribers right now. I'm just trying to have some really cool conversations, which I think we did. Like, I think we actually hit on some really cool topics that I didn't think about myself. So I'm
hmm
super happy with this. But more than anything, I'm happy that you could come on and just talk with me. And thank you for your time. It was really awesome.
no, thank you, Mrs. You're Blind. But yeah,
My pleasure.
welcome to the TFT community. Shit's lit in here.
It's lit.
It's lit. But yeah,
Well, I'm sure I'll be talking to you with. I'm sure I'll be talking with you soon. For those of you who have listening who've made it so far, thanks so much for joining us. I hope you learned something. I hope we've inspired you to chase your dreams and and become an expert, crush everybody, stay out of the tournament organization games because I'm going to crush you. No, I'm just kidding. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.
nice.